All right, so we have a couple more points here in our conversation on fully remote work. So, in-person events. Just because you're fully remote doesn't mean that you never ever get together. And I think this goes along with how we opened up when we were talking about synchronous and asynchronous, and we were like, if it's synchronous, there better be a good reason for it. And I feel like in-person events, that takes it to even a whole nother level, because if you're doing an in-person event for a fully remote workforce, you're putting up some dollars. You're putting up some money for that because people are going to have to travel to a certain spot. You might need to rent some space. They're going to need lodging. They're going to need food. So it's like you really want to be like, okay, what is it that when we get together that this is going to be a really valuable time? What is it that we're going to do that we couldn't do this remotely, or we could do it remotely, but it's kind of like what we were just talking about when asynchronous is poor, when it's not good. It's kind of the same thing. When is it when it's like, we really need to get this group together? Things like different team building activities and different bonding type activities. Those things are difficult to do fully remote.
Was trying to think of other things that experiences I've had in person that would be very difficult remotely. I do enjoy the meals together when you can kind of have time for conversation and hear as the conversation goes to maybe it's something you had at the conference, something you're working on, and then just little personal bits in between. You just can't replicate that on video. I know you say you've got good snacks at your house, but there's some, if we have good snacks together there. The small group discussion, this is one I've seen it done really well. You can do that pretty well virtually. One of the things that I've enjoyed in person can be those birds of a feather type things where you can get access to lots of different opinions or perspectives and the people who really know what they're talking about that are leading those. But then I was like, well, we could do those fully remotely. But here's the thing, in person, then you can, after the actual structured time, then you have that non-structured where you might be able to extend that conversation or ask a different type of question there. So I guess it just comes back to those things you can do more physically. And I've seen a lot of the like excursion type things, like some of the remote teams, wherever they're gathered, they'll do something that's very specific to that locale. So it might be a cooking class, it might be going to see a certain thing to where you get a bit of the local culture as well. I don't know, any other?
Yeah, I think it's just having an experience together
Yeah.
brings people together. One of the things I remember a company doing one time that I thought was really cool, and it's been a long time, but they did a thing where they had the different departments cross departments and go to other areas. Like they would have the software engineers go into the accounting department and have the accounting department show them, here's how we do things, to have more cross awareness for things. And I thought that was a pretty cool idea too.
Yeah, those cross-functional teams, or as you were saying, it made me think, my brother manages, his team is global, and they had a new employee they onboarded. And so the whole team came into home office for all the get to know you bonding, but also the onboarding going on there. And so one of the things they did was tour. They have a separate facility, so it's not their main core businesses, but some more innovation type of work being done there. And so they would have special experiences there for his team. So there it's a health and wellness type thing. So they would have different sound therapies, different experiences, and some things that you can't do remotely because you need to be in the same space with it for the vibration, things like that. He was very intentional as they designed those. And I think one of the ways that I would think about this is as you're planning it, if it's something that you start thinking about and you're like, oh, this, I can do this in about 30 slides and I'm going to be talking the whole time. I don't think I would do that. Or, and it might be a topic that you do need to have. Maybe it's emotionally charged. Maybe it's like a big thing. And if you have people there, but is there a way to also have the participants, the employees, connecting with each other at the same time, to where you're like, could this have been just a big remote meeting? And so I don't know, how would you think about what to do when you're in person?
I think, what we talked about before, because the example that you just gave is a good one. If it's all going to be one person's just up on stage talking the whole time and everybody else is just sitting at tables all day, and even if you were like, yeah, but we're going to have breakout groups, it's like, I mean, the technology facilitates that kind of stuff very well. If it was my budget, I'd be like, it's not worth all the money that I'm going to spend to fly all these people in and put them in hotels and feed them for 3 days if that's all I'm going to do. There has to be something more to it than that. It has to be some kind of tangible thing that they're going to be doing. Now, I guess the argument might be like if you're going to do that during the day and then in the evenings, there's going to be activities. I don't know, maybe. To me, there needs to be something more there than just you're going to go
Just
out and party every night.
be really clear on your goals, right? So, what are the goals? So, if the goals are to bring people together and have those human connections where that can be, think of it as the cement that holds the remote team together when they're fully remote. Early on, there was a group that was studying how often you needed to be in person to have the most effective fully remote team. At the time, it was about once every 18 months. If you had that in person, what they were thinking of it is like, what's the glue that holds it in? Yeah, you
Yeah,
have.
what do you think about frequency? Did you look something up or did you see something? Because I don't think it was, I don't remember reading it in any of the resources about how frequent should you do in person
That was
with
an
a fully remote team.
That's an old stat. So that just stuck in my brain because I got my master's years ago, and it was one of the first fully remote master's programs in the US, but it was a hybrid. And so the way it was designed was once we were accepted, we started with a week together. And so there were 40 people in the program, but divided into smaller groups of 10 for each little cadre. And we spent a week together working on real world problems. So we were figuring out, so we were doing problem solving, but it was an introduction to learning technologies. And so we got to know people in our group, and then we were online, so completely asynchronous. And then we came back in the midpoint at a tech conference for another time together. And that time together, we weren't really, I mean, we got some of the new technologies. We would see that, but it was really time together. And we were talking about the projects we were working on. And so then we went back fully asynchronous and then came back for graduation. I said, it's old research. So I'd be curious to see what it's like now because that was, like I said, that was pre desktop video, that was pre messaging apps. So basically, we had email, we build websites.
I was waiting for you to be like, we had like carrier pigeons and smoke signals. Like I thought you were going there.
Yeah, it was
You're
it,
like telegraph. You're like, thank God we have the telegraph.
it was so long ago. The big discussion was online versus video conferencing because the two had not blended yet. So we didn't have any type of unified communication. So you would either put a course online completely asynchronously or you would teach through video synchronously. I would be curious to see what it's like now because the difference now is that we've got more glue from those messaging apps. That's what we're seeing is that's where the informal interactions are taking place.
And I guess just like pretty much everything else that we talk about, like I think it's all nuanced, right? I don't think there's at least once a year you need to get together. I think it's just going to be a different frequency depending on the company and the group
What you're
and
doing,
the
yeah.
and the job functions and all that kind of stuff. The last thing that we have is on measurement, and I'm pretty sure this was in the GitLab resource about you have to measure what you want to reinforce. And what the executive at GitLab was pointing out, and I think this is the big rub here with a lot of the remote work, is this whole idea about companies still wanting to focus on presenteeism, right? It's like, when are you in your seat? At GitLab, they're like, yeah, we're not going to reward people just for showing up or because they quickly respond to a message, right? Or because it looks like they're working all day and all night. We want to reward people that are getting things done. They're more focused on here are your responsibilities, and we want to see this get done, not like this took you 16 hours of work a day for 3 weeks, right? That's insignificant. And so I don't know how I don't know how we get out of that.
It can be the flip too, because there are some cultures, I don't know if this is really the flip, but the mindset of you've got to work 120 hours a week, even if you are demonstrating that you're working, but it's like almost like just that overworking culture. You need to work 120 hours a week because hard working is good.
I just feel like the system's broken when it starts focusing on how much seat time do you have? Is that really what we want to measure? Is it really, if I'm in my seat for 8 hours a day, does that mean that I've done 8 hours of work? I would say no, that I could be in the seat, but I hadn't done anything. I swear you're like the first person I ever heard say this when you talked about the performance theater, like
Yeah.
the people would do in the office. And I saw somebody, I was looking at something this week and they were like, oh, it happens online too. It's like online performance, the virtual performance theater, where people do that with the messaging apps now. It just makes it look like I'm always available, I'm always here, and I'm always doing stuff. They're not really doing anything. It's just performance theater remotely. That kind of stuff rubs me the wrong way, but that's the game, right? That's how the game's been set up. And they're like, hey, okay, if that's the game, then that's how I'll play the game. You know, they're requiring kids to be in the classroom when it's like, why can't you be more flexible? And then they're like, especially like anybody that has had students in high school, they're constantly getting pulled out of class to do stuff because they're in this social activity. And it's like, so if we're saying we can only learn when we got everybody here in the classroom, it's not equitable. It's like, why can't things be more like, here are the assignments. We're going to do some direct instruction. I have some videos online to reinforce that, like where it can be like more like you can learn wherever you're at. You mentioned this earlier about the hybrid thing. That's the second form of remote work that we'll be talking about. And it seems like when you look at all the stats and everything, that's the sweet spot, right? Where you can have some time where everybody's all together. And you also have the system set up where if you can't get everybody together, nobody's left behind.
Yeah, Ken, I really look forward to our next conversation where we are diving into hybrid work and just to tag on to that whole nuance thing where we really get nerdy about how you decide what technology you're going to use, when are you together, when can you be separate. The companies that do it well, I think, have some of the most satisfied workers with them. Is that too much? Did I give too much away there in the teaser?
I don't think so. I think it's just enough. I know some of you were like, when's that episode coming out? Soon, soon. So stay tuned. Let us know what you thought about some of the things we shared about fully remote work. If there's anything maybe we didn't touch on that you're like, hey, well, what about this? Or hey, what do you think about this scenario? What would be your take on that? Share it with us. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, hybrid remote work.